In some instances, it's never been easier to identify dangerous men than it is today. If I pull into a business and I see a guy wearing a balaclava or a shiesty mask, I'm just going to keep on rolling right back out the exit of that business. Hey guys, retired Lieutenant Todd Heaton here with Humilitas First. This robbery happened July 17, 2023. The temperatures were still in the 90s at the time of its occurrence. This isn't Halloween, so what's this guy's deal? Well, here's what his deal is. He demands the victim's backpack. The victim doesn't want to give up his backpack. Eventually, he punches him in the face several times and just takes the backpack away from him. That part is not shown by the video that's released by the police. Humilitas First offers 4 public safety rules. Number 1, avoid dangerous areas. Go to crimegrade.org, look up Houston, Texas, and click on the Violent Crimes tab. Guess what? The location of this crime could be categorized as a dangerous area. Number 2, avoid dangerous men. Don't click off the video. I'm going to dig down on this one coming up. Number 3, avoid dangerous areas during dangerous time periods. This depends upon the area in question, but generally, we want to avoid summertime, hot weather, after dark, and special events like potentially violent protests. Number 4, don't loiter in high crime dangerous areas, but rather learn how to be as efficient as is possible transiting through such areas, thereby limiting your vulnerabilities to the dangerous men. So how might we go about identifying dangerous men? Well, how a man dresses or adorns himself, that makes a statement to the world around him. What is this guy's statement to the world by wearing a shiesty mask in temperatures nearing 100 degrees? Well, in my opinion, it's either I'm a dangerous guy or I am a madman. Either option is bad. I don't believe for 1 second that this guy has any concerns over the C to the O to the VID virus. I believe he has concerns over a future arrest and prosecution for robbery. In other words, the mask is all about concealing his identity. Anybody who's read the book Left of Bang or who follows any of the speakers on social media talking about the Marine Corps Combat Hunter Program, they might point out that overdressing for the weather, that's going to be outside the baseline for what's normal. As it relates to dangerous men that we might want to avoid, probably the single most important category has to do with how a man tactically positions himself or maneuvers on you and yours. Humilitas First video content consistently shows you, the innocent person of goodwill, the tactical positioning and the maneuvers unjust criminal aggressors use to accomplish their criminal desires. Proximity is king. Bad guys, they learn to throw off social norms, while you, an innocent person of goodwill, you're going to suffer them because that's how you were raised. This is a major distinction between new police recruits and veteran police officers, as you must learn to transition from being a civilian who suffers social norms to a police officer who's quite comfortable going against social norms by being awkward, odd, and strange, tactically. In this case, the bad guy continually compresses inside the contact range, that distance where the victim has a much greater chance of getting knocked out with a sucker punch. He's stacking the odds in his favor, managing distance so he can reach out and grab hold of this guy. Whatever defensive plan you decide to go with, you're going to want to act sooner rather than later within the window of opportunity. Because as it pertains to crime and violence, windows of opportunity, they tend to open and close quickly. If your plan is to comply, then just give him the backpack. If your plan is to run away, well, you best get to running. If your plan is to saturate him in bear spray or use something like boxing or jiu-jitsu or whatever, then you better get to it, lest that window of opportunity slam shut. Number 2, how does a man dress himself? What kind of statement to the world is he making? If that statement is, I'm a dangerous man, well, I'm going to believe him. Think of biker gangs. How do they dress? Inner city gangs. Shiesty masks like we see in this example. Number 3, how does a man adorn himself? Adorn having to do with decorate, or as with external ornamentation. So I can't help but think of like tattoos, right? Which everybody has those nowadays, so that doesn't mean anything. But I'm going to tell you something. Gang and prison tattoos, well, they have legitimate dangerous guy meanings. If you're sporting gang or prison tattoos, well, you got my full attention. Number 4, how does a man comport himself? In other words, what's his bearing, or how does he carry himself? The unjust criminal aggressor in this video seems to exude confidence, and he's carrying himself in an aggressive and intimidating manner. He pursues as his intended victim continually retreats. His focus seems singular, oriented towards his target's face. He's an imminent threat of bodily harm at this very point. No, I didn't say great bodily harm, but bodily harm based upon how he's comporting himself as he advances. Now, I don't see him clenching his fists, but at some point that certainly happened because he punched his victim several times just outside of CCTV range. Number 5, how is a man disposed? Disposition having to do with mood or an inclination towards spirits. Well, what kind of spirits am I encouraging people to avoid? Angry spirits. When you hear loud, profanity-laced arguments spinning up, you might want to give those a wide berth.
They were arguing and it escalated when the victim pulled out a weapon. The other man then pulled out his weapon and fatally shot the victim.
Depending upon where you are, the probabilities are going to go up or down as to what might happen next, i.e. gunfire. In our present video example, we see after his backpack is taken from him, he runs inside the convenience store where the clerk locks the door. For whatever reason, the bad guy apparently wasn't done with the victim. Finding himself stuck outside the door, we see him pull a firearm out of his right front pants pocket. This, in part, explains why he was exuding confidence earlier in this attack. Lawless spirits. If you see disorder, you see people dancing on top of cars, you see damage to property, or you see people gathering around vehicles or structures that are on fire, it's time to put distance between you and those people. Party spirits. Alcohol and drugs decrease a person's ability to make good judgments. You can see radical mood swings where a stranger unreasonably loves you until they don't, until they suddenly unreasonably hate you. A spirit of madness. Some of these folks, they'll be having a very loud and profane-laced argument with themselves. I can't help but think of that movie, Nefarious. Here's the bottom line. This kind of spirit is highly unpredictable and potentially impossible to placate. You can't just give them your wallet and they go away. You can't reason with the madman. Rather, you want to avoid them and steer your family away from people who are displaying a spirit of madness.